Okay, so today we're working in RLA reading, and the lesson is checking reasoning and support. So something you'll notice with the GED exam, something that we really harp on is understanding, evidence, supporting a claim, all of those ideas, because it comes up in social studies. It certainly comes up not only on your language arts, sort of the reading comprehension part of the exam, but really, on your writing side as well, and understanding, like it says here, making the distinction between facts that are related versus facts that are relevant. So things, you have joining sentences, Nelda. You should also have, let me go ahead and check here. In RLA reading, you should see reasoning and support, but just a second, I can take care of that. Sorry, there you are. Okay. Nope, it's already there. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so, understanding related, what is relevant, what's related. There's things there that will look like it's important, but it's noise. It doesn't necessarily add anything. It's not adding support to someone's claim. So as you can imagine, a lot of what we're going to be looking at is persuasive text, not, okay. And can you guys hear me?
No, we couldn't hear you at
first.
first.
I can hear you now.
Okay, something's going on here. I might have to shut down my laptop. You guys don't go anywhere. I just put something in the chat. Let's see what happens if I come back. Okay. What is going on? I think my web browser just crashed. Okay. You guys, can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can see.
Yes, I can see now.
Okay,
Yes.
That was weird. It just froze. My browser went away for a minute. So I don't know what that was about, but it looks like we're okay now. Sorry about that. So continuing on, if something like just as because that happened, if for some reason, like I would just suddenly disappear and the Zoom is still going, I will get back into the Zoom. Just, you guys just stay where you are and I'll get back as soon as I can. It's happened, once or twice in the past. So just hang with me and I'll put out a, message in the chat. So just kind of keep an eye on your phone. I'll let you know what's going on. Nilda knows that's probably happened when we've been in class together before. So, anyway, as I was saying, this is something that comes up a lot. Main topics, understanding ideas, understanding, evidence, and some things will appear that it is related, because it kind of falls in the same topic, but does it really support? Is it supporting detail? Is it relevant to what's going on, or should you just kind of throw it away? So let's take a look at the lesson here.
Hey there, glad you could make it. This lesson will teach you to make distinctions between facts that are related versus facts that are relevant to support the main idea of a text. Right,
so just because it's related doesn't mean that it necessarily adds anything to the text.
My Aunt Rosa recently had a bad experience at a restaurant, so she asked me to help her write a negative review. She wrote this draft. My aunt is a very sweet woman. She's not the sort to complain for the sake of complaining. If she wants to write a negative review, you can bet she's trying to save others from a bad experience. That's just how she is. Knowing how to check reasoning and support is a reading skill, but it's also the first step to rewriting. Let's see what I can do with Aunt Rosa's review.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, so I've got a text here. I'm ready to check its support and reasoning, but hold up a moment. There's still a couple of things I need to do before I'm ready to dig in. First, I need to identify the topic. That's usually pretty easy. The topic is what the text is about. So what's the text about? If there were a title here, that would give me a clue. If this were a longer text, I could try skimming. Sometimes it can help to look at the first and last sentence of each paragraph. Subtitles can help too. All of this can tell me about the topic of the text. It's pretty clear that Aunt Rosa is talking about the restaurant she went to. That's the topic. Once I know the topic, next I need to figure out the main idea. The main idea is what the author is saying about the topic. Most authors get to the main idea pretty quickly. Often I'll find the main idea near the beginning of the opening paragraph, followed by supporting statements. Aunt Rosa gives her main idea in the first sentence. Don't eat here. Sometimes authors will put their main idea after the support, like this. That works too. Sometimes the main idea isn't stated in a single sentence. Sometimes you have to feel it out. Ask yourself, what does the author spend the most time talking about? The author's focus should be on their main idea. Once you've found the main idea, you have also identified what the author needs to support. My aunt wanted to convince people not to eat at the restaurant. That's her main idea. That's what she needs to support. These other sentences here are supposed to serve to support her main idea. That isn't quite happening here, but we'll get to that in a bit. So, now it's your turn. See if you can identify the topic and main idea of a text.
Okay, so I want you to think about this. We are going to, this is going to come back up here in a moment later in the lesson. But thinking about what this person wrote and our understanding, it's basically, it might be something like you see on Yelp or something, when something is getting, somebody's reviewing something, they're going to, either tell you that it's, you should go there, or you shouldn't go there, right? That's typically the persuasive idea, it's one or the other. So my friend Sam and I came here for a quick lunch. They seated us by the west window. It took them an hour to serve us. The seats were very cozy. Sam had the spaghetti. I had the Southwest burger. The food was cold. We asked to speak to a manager, but they said there wasn't one available. Don't eat here. So, think about everything in there is related. It's related to going to this restaurant. But we'll review this a little bit here, thinking about what's actually relevant and what actually supports her main idea that you shouldn't eat here. So that's going to be the idea behind the rest of the lesson.
Which of the following answers best describes the topic and main idea of this passage?
Okay, so, understanding topics and main ideas, right? So topic is the overall sort of broad general category that whatever you're reading falls into. And the main idea is going to be under that. So in a lot of writing that we're going to look at down the road, actually all through the classes, in a persuasive text, right? The main idea is typically an argument. They are posing an argument for or against something, and that will be sort of the main idea in the piece. If it's informational text, it's going to be something which we'll kind of see in some of these. This one is a little bit more of a persuasive text. So let's take a look. So the energy crisis, right? Title, first place to look to understand the topic. I think we have our topic. So the world depends on renewable resources like oil and coal. The term non-renewable means that one day the world will run out of that resource. As the world's resources run out, the cost for energy will rise. This is bad for everyone. If people can't afford coal for their power plants, they can't power their homes. If people can't buy gas for their cars, they can't drive to work. If energy is not affordable, people can't use it. This is the energy crisis. Now, usually with an introductory paragraph, their main idea, if it's looking to be a persuasive text or arguing a point, it's going to be towards the bottom. They're going to give you some introduction there as far as, we're developing that topic, right? And then finally, if you look, if energy is not affordable, people can't use it, right? Now we're getting to the more succinct, more detailed main idea. Non-renewable energy. So we have subtitles here for each section. Non-renewable energy. Some people feel that the way out is to drill and dig for more resources. After all, if the world has more oil, the price of oil would go down. The same is true of coal. Sadly, the more oil we drill, the less oil there is to find. We're running out of safe, cheap places to drill and dig. We could drill deeper into the earth, but that's not cheap. Our goal is cheap energy. We could mine our public spaces, like state parks, but that could ruin our parks. As the cost of non-renewable energy rise, so do the risk. So each paragraph, right, as we talked about, has a topic sentence. There is a main idea for each sentence that's going to support the, main idea for the entire passage. And then the next one, nuclear power could be part of the answer. That's our topic for this paragraph. Like oil and coal plants, nuclear reactors use non-renewables. They need uranium mined from the earth like coal. Reactors make a lot more power than a coal plant of the same size. They do need to dispose of nuclear waste, but won't pollute the air like a coal plant. Due to safety concerns, though, reactors are pricey to set up and maintain. If a power plant melts down, it could be a huge danger. Though reactors cause few deaths each year, there is still a better choice. All right, our next subheading, renewable energy. Renewable energy does not run out. It needs no fuel. It makes no waste. Solar power is a renewable choice. Unlike coal plants and reactors, a solar plant does not need fuel to make power. Solar plants get their power from the sun. They also don't make waste. In fact, the sun is the solar plant's single drawback. If the sky is full of clouds, the solar plant draws less power from the sun. So solar plants must store some of its power for a rainy day. Like solar, wind power is clean energy. Wind plants do not need to drill, mine, or burn. Wind plants make no waste. They do cost more to set up and maintain than solar. The turbines of a wind plant also make a lot of racket. Locals might not like the noise. The fast blades of a turbine might pose a risk to bird life. Like solar, wind plants depend on the weather. If the winds are calm, a wind plant won't draw much power. And then this is basically our conclusion. Okay, they gave us a couple different types of renewable energy talked about. The world is hungry for energy. Though we are forced to move away from oil and coal, we do have options. The price of solar is going down each year. Wind turbines, meanwhile, continue to improve. Until clean energy is ready, there's always nuclear. The best choice is the one that takes us away from oil and coal. The best choice is renewable energy. So, again, like she mentioned earlier, if you look towards the first part of a passage and the last part of a passage, you're going to get a very good idea of the main idea for the entire passage, the introductory paragraph and the concluding paragraph. The rest are going to be details that support that main idea. So, which of the following answers best describes the topic and main idea of this passage? So the topic is the energy crisis, right? Not specifically about renewable energy. It's talking about the issue that we have using non-renewable sources. That's a big part of the entire passage. So not just the topic of renewable energy. And then next, the main idea. So dwindling resources force us to move toward renewable energy, right? That is where we are headed. We discuss the issue with non-renewable sources. We talk about intermediate, pathways like nuclear energy, and then moving towards renewable sources. So, not about pollution. That's the other main idea that, we hear about pollution as part of a detail, but the idea is to have cheap energy, right? Continuing to have resources to supply us. So that's going to be
Great job!
D
This
there.
is an informative essay. The author tries to explain why non-renewable energy is becoming more expensive and why this means we need to look for cheaper, renewable forms of energy.
I mean, they say it's informative, but there is a persuasive tone to that text, talking about moving towards renewable resources. So I kind of on the fence there just to say that that is an informative text. And moving on.
Okay, now we're ready to talk about support and reasoning. I'm going to take a look at Aunt Rosa's restaurant review. Here's the original draft. The topic of the review is the restaurant. Aunt Rosa's main idea is that you shouldn't eat at this restaurant. So this review is kind of like a persuasive essay. Aunt Rosa is trying to convince you not to eat here. In a persuasive essay, the details should help convince your audience to agree with the main idea. So in this review, the supporting details should give reasons why the restaurant is a bad place to eat. When you look at a text, you're going to see 4 different types of details. First, there are irrelevant details. Those are details that don't fit with either the topic or main idea. Irrelevant details will seem out of place. The second kind of...
So just, totally, out there. Not about the topic, not about, the main idea. It's completely unrelated.
Relevant details will seem out of place. The second kind of detail is the unsupportive detail. An unsupportive detail is relevant, but doesn't support the main idea. The third kind of detail is the supportive detail. That's a detail that supports the main idea. We'll talk about that in a moment. The last kind of detail is the contradictory detail. That's a detail that disagrees with the main idea. You don't see that too often. Now, a supportive detail needs a warrant. A warrant is the reasoning behind how a detail supports the main idea. Sometimes a warrant is explained in the text. Sometimes a warrant is implied. Let me show you how I look for warrants.
Most of the time it's implied, right? It's not going to be like, I am using this evidence because, it's relevant, blah, 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 blah. You will see the relationship between the two.
I'll go through each of Aunt Rosa's details one by one to check if each one has a warrant. Remember, Aunt Rosa wants to persuade you not to eat at this restaurant. That's her main idea. That's what she needs to support. Here are the details from Aunt Rosa's restaurant review. I'll start at the top and go left to right. It doesn't really matter where Sam and Rosa were sitting, does it? That has nothing to do with the main idea. This is an unsupportive detail. No warrant here. What about this one? This one has a warrant. Would you want to wait an hour to be served? Probably not. Notice how Aunt Rosa doesn't explain the warrant? She just assumes that most people wouldn't want to wait an hour to be served. That warrant is implied. This detail supports Aunt Rosa's advice not to eat here. What about this one? Cozy seats? That sounds like a reason to eat here, doesn't it? Aunt Rosa is trying to convince the reader not to eat here. This is a contradictory detail. Oh, and this detail? What they ordered? It's relevant to the topic, but it doesn't say anything about the bad service. This is an unsupportive detail. No warrant here. Ah, but what about cold food? People would care if their food was cold, wouldn't they? That one has a warrant based on implication that no one wants cold food. So that's a supportive detail. People might also care if there is no manager. You need some way to resolve a complaint, right? So that has an implied warrant also. See? Support is easy to spot when you look for warrants. Anyway, that's all there is to it. Why don't you give it a try?
Yeah, and a warrant, as she's saying, it's just justification. That's a little bit of a fancier word to say it justifies something. So, this evidence justifies this claim. And yeah, so just when we looked at that passage, you probably started seeing stuff that was more relevant than others. It's all related to this person going to lunch at this restaurant, right? But if, depending on what you're writing about, the purpose of your writing, some of those details far more, warrants, support for the claim. the major claim that you shouldn't eat there, right? Seated by the west window, irrelevant. Does not support the claim. It took an hour to serve them, definitely relevant. Cozy seats, that's contradictory. Spaghetti and burger, what they ate, not necessarily relevant. Now, this is very, what's the word I'm looking for? Specific, I guess. It's very disciplined. Like, if you were to write a review, you may put in there, it's like, well, my friend had the spaghetti, I had the hamburger, and the food was cold. It ties in to the idea of because what you had, what you ate. So, not necessarily if you were writing something like that every single sentence and every word in those sentences will, be a supporting detail. There's also a matter of, sort of style and writing for, in context. So, this is really sort of hammering home, what are the warrants here? What are the most supporting details? But, if there's something, the cozy seat thing, the where you were seated, that might not be so, that's something that you could toss out. But, what you had, that's a little more on the verge of relevant. And let's see what we have here next.
Which detail supports the main idea that dwindling resources force us to move toward renewable energy?
Okay, so supporting the main ideas from the same passage we looked at on renewable energy sources, what detail here supports the main idea? And largely, so it's sadly, the more oil we drill, the less oil there is to find, right? That is supporting the idea of the issue with non-renewable energy resources. Reactors make a lot more power than a coal plant of the same size. Not really. It's related, but doesn't necessarily support the main idea. Until clean energy is ready, there's always nuclear, not supporting the main idea. Really driving home the fact that we are using non-renewable sources that will not last forever. That's the idea, that we need cheaper types of resources. And then the best choice is the one that takes us away from oil and coal. Yeah, but that's a little too specific. This is the one we want.
Great job! This detail directly supports the idea that the world's resources are dwindling, forcing us to consider renewable energy options. The more oil we extract, the less of it there is to find. There's only so much oil in the ground.
Right. So directly supporting the main idea. Dwindling resources force us to move forward with renewable energy, right? That's the main idea.
Very good work on those exercises. Now it's time to do some practice. You can show what you've learned and maybe learn even more. I have 8 questions that you can answer, but I think if you can answer the first 3 correct,
so
it shows you
let's
really
take, there's some text to get through and everything. So go ahead and give it about 15 minutes. We'll just go a little bit after 2 o'clock here, and then we'll start reviewing. So thinking about finding the topic, that's going to be probably the easiest part. You're going to look at the titles. You're going to know that right away. Main idea, right? Falls right under that. It's more specific. What exactly is the passage going to talk about? We're going to find that in the introductory paragraph and in the conclusion towards the end. And then those supporting details, what best supports what they're discussing. All right, so take about 15 minutes, and if you got any questions, just let me know. And we'll pause the recording. Yeah, so let's take a look and see what we have. So for this next passage, right, which of the following answers best describe the topic and main idea of this passage. So we look at this real quick. We won't have to read the whole thing here, but what's going to tip us off for topic? Obviously the title. Not always going to have a title, right? So we have to keep that in mind. But how to keep your bones healthy. They're not going to trick you. If you're reading a passage like this or something, they're not going to, have a title like that and then start talking about walking your dog. It's going to be relevant. That could be an issue in the real world because people kind of get creative and start, a title doesn't necessarily represent exactly what the topic is. Not so much when it comes to, what you're going to learn here and applying that to your test. So how to keep your bones healthy. We know that's going to be the topic. And then we start seeing ideas about different steps you can take. So it's an informational text. Most certainly this is informational, cut and dry, and discusses how much calcium someone needs, particularly children, and what that means for your bone mass, and things that you can do to get calcium. Vitamin D is important for absorbing calcium. And then foods that are, if you ever notice, that's the reason you have vitamin D in milk is because those two vitamins and minerals work together. A little sunlight doesn't hurt either for metabolizing vitamin D, as a side note. So we talk about foods that are going to have calcium, foods that have vitamin D, and then the importance of exercise, physical activity. Respond to physical activity by growing stronger. It's important that you get plenty of physical activity every day. Stimulate your bones to increase the production of new bone tissue. So particularly strength building and weight bearing exercises help with bone density. Activities that are not weight bearing include swimming and bicycling. They are not the best way to exercise your bones. Yes, you need weight bearing exercise. 60 minutes of physical activity each day. So, and then other things that will hurt your bone density. Smoking, for example, certain medications, corticosteroids can lead to a loss of bone density and fractures. If you have to take any medications for a long period of time, make sure to ask your doctor if they might weaken your bones. And then we have where this information comes from. There's typically a source on these. So it's an excerpt from Healthy Bones Matter, National Institute of Health. I think that's where Dr. Fauci works. So which of the following answers best describe the topic and main idea? So we already know bone health, certainly the main idea, or I'm sorry, the topic there. And then there are steps you can take to promote healthy bones. It gives you basically a step-by-step guide or things that you can do. So yeah, that's B. Correct. And then what idea does this idea support? That is kind of an awkward sentence. What idea does this idea support? So bones respond to physical activity by growing stronger. So this detail supports the main idea by giving an example of how exercise promotes bone health, right? So this detail supports the main idea by giving an example of how exercise promotes bone health. The other ones, this detail supports the main idea by showing how exercise promotes the growth of bones. No, that's really specific, right? That's the choice there. It's minimal difference, but we're overall right. The main idea here and the topic is bone health. So that's really close. That really that's a fine line between the two, but those words between growth of bone and bone health, that is the difference. That second option, this detail supports the main idea of showing the relationship between bones and physical activity. No, it's overall talking about ways to support bone health. And then this detail doesn't have a warrant. It doesn't directly support the main idea. Nope, it absolutely does. It bones respond to physical activity by growing stronger. Here we go. Yeah, and it says a warrant explains how a supportive detail supports that passage, right? A justification. It's often implied, right? People don't go around and saying, I am telling you that this, this detail supports this main idea because. They're just going to give you the supporting detail. Okay, and then what kind of detail does the following quote represent? So vitamin D is the key that unlocks calcium. It helps your body to absorb calcium from the food you eat. So it's going to be a warrant. Okay, so vitamin D is the key that unlocks calcium. Kind of detail does the following quote represent? It helps your body to absorb calcium from the food. Okay. So the main idea, like it says here, the main idea is that there are steps you can take to promote healthy bones. These sentences explain the benefit of one of those steps. So taking vitamin D helps you absorb calcium. This is a warrant for taking vitamin D. The difference between warrant and supporting detail, it's minimal. In our other class, or when we used the Steckbond material, the Paxson material, we dealt with supporting details, we dealt with main ideas, we dealt with topics. We didn't discuss warrants that much, right? Because it really, generally speaking, it's just more supporting details, right? Supporting detail, much like a warrant, it's just, where the warrant justifies the claim, again, most of the time that is just implied. So, these kind of questions, will you get asked about, what's a warrant on your exam? Probably not. It's good to know as far as critical thinking goes, right? What is the justification for the supporting detail? You can ask yourself that. Ask yourself, does this detail, is this warranted? But you're going to sort of incorporate that.
Excellent. You got the first 3 questions
into, your understanding, your critical thinking. It's just one of those kind of steps along the way, and you don't necessarily stop and think about warrants all the time. Okay, so next passage on supersonic, or is it? Let's see, what is the main idea? So we're looking again, topic and main idea here. So right off the bat, supersonic flight. Thinking of supersonic flight, right? And then you can look at the first paragraph. Supersonic flight is one of the 4 speeds of flight. There are called the regimes of flight. The regimes of flight are subsonic, transonic, supersonic, and hypersonic. Okay, first paragraph. Certainly all about, between the title and the fact that we have these 4 regimes, we could probably say pretty safely that the passage, the topic of the passage is supersonic flight. And as we read along, we can take a look here. Vehicles that fly at supersonic speeds are flying faster than the speed of sound. Just looking at some of the, the topic sentences there. Chuck Yeager became the first person to fly an aircraft faster than the speed of sound in October 14th, 1947. What flies at supersonic speeds? A bullet fired from a gun is an example. Okay, again, supersonic speed, supersonic speed, supersonic speed. It keeps coming up, so that's got to be the main topic here. The Concorde, it was a commercial airliner, supersonic, the sonic boom. So, pretty safe bet. Just skimming through it, you look at the subtitles, right, of each section here, and we keep running into supersonic flight. So that's a sure bet as far as topic goes. So what then might be the main idea? So we can eliminate, right? We're talking about supersonic flight. That's the only one here that actually says supersonic flight. The main idea being technology allows some aircraft to exceed the speed of sound. That's a safe bet for our main idea. Topics, otherwise, types of flight, I mean, that's pushing it because it was basically about the regimes there, that govern the different speeds, types of flight. That could be easily, whether it's a rotor aircraft or, a fixed wing aircraft or what have you. Aircraft can fly at 4 different regimes, each faster than the next. No, that's too specific. We're, or that's a detail within the passage. Air travel research, no, it's more specific. It's on supersonic flight. Jets have become consistently faster over time. We talk about different types of aircraft. We talk about different types of supersonic aircraft, not necessarily that they become consistently faster. And then topic, the speed of sound, that is supersonic flight. Supersonic flight pushes aside air, causing a sonic boom. That's another detail within the main idea here. So the overall main idea is technology allows some aircraft to exceed the speed of sound. Okay. Okay, and then what kind of detail is this? Chuck Yeager was my childhood hero. I know a lot about him. He passed away here a year or two ago, I believe. So in 1947, Air Force Captain Charles E. Chuck Yeager became the first person to fly an aircraft faster than the speed of sound. What kind of detail is this? So it is a supportive detail, all right? It supports the idea that aircraft can exceed the speed of sound. So, it's one of those details, it's a fact. And then pointing out, when and where this first occurred, a couple years after World War II. Up until that time, they weren't sure that they're actually going to be able to fly faster than the speed of sound because of aircraft design. Controls tended to freeze up when you got close to that compression of air. And they were just like, ooh, I don't know if we're going to do this. So it was originally, it was called the sound barrier because aircraft could not fly faster than that. The only thing that we knew that moved faster than that was bullets. And that really kind of spoke to the design of aircraft initially that flew faster than the speed of sound. Right. Okay, and then what kind of detail is this? Sharp release of pressure after the buildup of a shock wave is heard as a sonic boom. So this is not just a detail, but it's a warrant. It explains the reasoning used in the next paragraph. So let's see here. Okay, so the sonic boom. A sonic boom is a loud thunder-like noise heard by a person on the ground when an aircraft flies overhead at supersonic speeds. You do not want to be close to that. Air reacts like a fluid. It's going to hurt your ears. Air reacts like a fluid to supersonic objects. As objects travel through the air molecules are pushed aside with great force. The force forms a shock wave, much like the wave created by the front of a so shock wave. So yeah, the shock wave forms a cone of pressurized air. A sharp release of pressure after the buildup of shock wave is heard as a sonic boom. So why do we get that, right? What's important about that? So giving you that information leads to that next paragraph. So an understanding that NASA is studying and testing devices that could be used on aircraft to lessen the noise and window rattling effects of supersonic flight. There are, Columbus, all of Franklin County, you're not going to hear, you cannot fly faster than the speed of sound over a residential area because it will wreak havoc. It will depending on their altitude, knock out windows on the ground. Your whole house will rumble. So, within, the United States, there are areas where, and at this point, it's all military aircraft that fly supersonic. There might be a few commercial, but there are designated areas. So this is, leading to this idea of how can NASA perhaps reduce that sonic boom. And if you see like an air show or something, if you ever see like the Blue Angels, they will get all the way up to transonic speed, where you can see the compression of air coming over the aircraft. It's like a big cone, but they will never actually pass through it in an air show, because that would create that sonic boom and make everybody, ears ring for days. But you can see it. You can literally see the air over those aircrafts as they approach this speed of sound. Anyway, so yes, that is not just a detail, right? It's explaining the reasoning next. It's giving us information, okay, this is a shock wave, it's pressurized air, sharp release of pressure, makes your ears pop, makes your windows shake, make your dogs hunt under the bed. NASA is working on ways that we can reduce that. So that's a justification for the next sentence. Yeah, this isn't just a detail, it's a warrant. So it's sort of a transitional, that one little paragraph sort of transitions from, the idea of supersonic flight to a problem resulting from supersonic flight, and then NASA working on a solution to that problem. Okay, next. So new passage, topic, main idea. So let's see here. Describes topic, passage, stress in daily life. Right away, probably know what the topic is. We will read a little further, right? So, okay, now I'm thinking about stress. Do you understand stress? It's essentially a way your body deals with problems. Stress can give you energy and help keep you focused. Your body creates hormones that help you cope with danger or difficult tasks. In small quantities and at appropriate times, stress is helpful. Let's look at the bottom. Find relaxation tips that work for you. Meditation is a useful tool for stress. A cup of tea and a hot bath can aid in relaxation. Find enjoyable activities such as taking a walk, playing a game, or listening to music. Add daily exercise to your life and find ways to spend time with others. All these activities can help with stress. Okay, main idea, or I'm sorry, topic, stress. Managing stress is what this sounds like. The main idea sounds like ways that we can reduce stress. So that's going to lead me to managing stress as the topic, and understanding and reducing stress can help you stay healthy. So finding that main idea, right? Introduction, conclusion, that's going to get you your head wrapped around the topic and the main idea. The body of a passage, right? The middle paragraphs are all going to be supporting details, or should be, right? So topic, managing stress, main idea, understanding and reducing stress. And then what is the warrant of the supportive detail, and how does it support the main idea? Stress can damage your long-term health. So because stress can damage your health, it is necessary to reduce stress, right? Stress can damage your long-term health, right? What is the warrant of the supporting detail here? Okay, so the supporting detail, stress can damage your long-term health, right? Why is that a detail? Why is that relevant to the passage? Because stress can damage your long-term health. It causes, it's necessary to reduce it. So main idea, right? Topic is managing stress. Main idea, understanding stress and how to reduce it. So supporting detail, stress can damage your long-term health, right? And why would that be a supporting detail? What's the justification that makes that a supporting detail? What is the warrant there? Because stress can damage your long-term health. It's necessary to reduce it, right? A lot of times that's going to be implied. Yeah. So supports the main idea. Understanding and reducing stress can help you stay healthy. So let's see what she's got to say here.
Well, thanks for taking my lesson on checking reasoning and support. Do you feel like you learned a thing or two? I know my Aunt Rosa did. Once I showed her the problems with her support and reasoning, she removed all the unsupported and contradictory details. That helped a lot. The restaurant later read the review and apologized. They even gave her a coupon for 2 free meals. My aunt wasn't going to use them, but I convinced her and Sam to try a do-over lunch. After all, people make mistakes, but everyone deserves a second chance. Yeesh, I sure hope they don't bring up cold food again. I'll never hear the end of it. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Press results to see how you did.
Okay, so in review here, you know, the main thing they should take away from the lesson. First off, we talked about this several times. Finding the topic and finding the main idea. Topic should be the easiest part. You're going to know, you know, just from skimming it. Immediately, if there's a title, you should understand what the topic's going to be. Main idea is how the author is writing about the topic, why they're writing about that topic, their purpose of writing about that topic. That's going to be the main idea. And then supporting details, right? Just, you know, self-explanatory. They support the main idea. They're relevant to the main idea. You are going to encounter things that are not relevant. These are tactics that you're going to use when it comes to your writing response. When you're analyzing some passages, they might have things in there that do not seem relevant. So you're going to be able to want to point those out. More to the point, though, you're going to want to be able to look at how they support their claims. So finding those finding those supporting details is really, really, really important. And then you'll, you know, be able to analyze them. The warrant thing you're doing sort of in the background in your head, right? You're just, you know, if you see, just like, you know, her what was her aunt or her mother, you know, you don't actually sit there and necessarily think all the way through why, you know, the seats were cozy doesn't warrant itself as a supporting detail. You just see that because it's not relevant, or it's not closely related to the idea that's being presented, the purpose of their writing. So warrant is sort of that in-between step between understanding, you know, why it's a supporting detail and how it's connected to the main idea. So any questions on reasoning and support? We are going to see this in several different ways. This is something that we're going to continue to build on our skill set and critical thinking on reading. So any questions? All righty then. Tomorrow we'll hop back into some grammar and work on that for the end of the week. Thursday came quick this week. Seemed like last week dragged on forever. We'll be tidying up and getting out tomorrow, probably a little around the same time, around 2:30ish or so, depending on how social studies go. Anyhow, you guys have a good afternoon, and I'll see you guys tomorrow at 12:15 for social studies. All right. Bye-bye.